With just 7 days to go until voters head to the polls, Trump and Harris are doing everything they can to ensure Americans are checking off their name when they cast a ballot. Dueling rallies this weekend presented very different images of the future for the states, with experts calling Trump's New York City appearance his most inflammatory and racist rally yet. And the tension is only heating up. What happens in the coming days will be pivotal in deciding the winner of next week's election that's far too close to call. It was a slew of insults and vulgarity at Madison Square Garden last night.
She is the devil, whoever screamed that out. She is the Antichrist.
We need to slaughter this other people.
She is some sick that Hillary Clinton, huh? What a sick son of a. The whole party, a bunch of degenerates.
The former president and Republican candidate held a massive rally and was joined by more than a dozen of his closest supporters who set a dark tone of what America could look like if Donald Trump wins next week's election. But one comment from comedian Tony Hinchcliffe has struck a chord.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico topping the trends today as voters, politicians, and celebrities react to the insult.
It's a shame that man thinks about us. When he was there 15, 20 years ago, he had a golf court. He had hotels over there. He lost everything, and now he's, bashing us and talking bad about us. We're part of the United States. We are Americans.
Including Puerto Rican star Bad Bunny, who shared this message with his 45 million Instagram followers.
I will never forget what Donald Trump did and what he did not do when Puerto Rico needed a caring and a competent leader.
In the video, Harris is referring to this viral moment where Trump threw paper towels into a crowd in Puerto Rico when talking about providing aid after Hurricane Maria decimated the island. Congresswoman AOC voiced her opinion while streaming on Twitch with Harris's VP candidate, Tim Walz.
When you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you.
Something Hinchcliffe didn't exactly appreciate, writing online, "These people have no sense of humor," while that a vice presidential candidate would take time out of his busy schedule to analyze a joke taken out of context to make it seem racist. He ends the tweet with, "I'm a comedian, Tim. Might be time to change your tampon."
That nonsense last night at Madison Square Garden, and are supporting me because they understand that they want a president of the United States who's about uplifting the people and not berating, not calling America a garbage can.
Harris was also busy this weekend with some of her highest profile rallies yet, standing in stark contrast of Trump's event.
And when I say the enemy from within, the other side goes crazy. They are indeed the enemy from within.
So please do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump, who knows nothing about us, who has shown deep contempt for us. Because a vote for him is a vote against us.
More than 41 million Americans have already cast a ballot in the election, according to the New York Times, including President Joe Biden voting early in his home state.
Most of the presidential scholars I've spoken to talk about the single most consequential thing about a president's character. And he puts that in question every time he opens his mouth.
But there's already an issue with the ballot count. The FBI is investigating after 2 ballot boxes were set on fire in Washington state and Oregon early this morning. Officials say an incendiary device was placed inside or next to both, damaging hundreds of votes in one of the most competitive ridings. Election officials are urging voters who used the drop boxes over the weekend to check the status of their ballot. As the race between Harris and Trump is so tight, every vote will count. With more on the state of the race in the U.S. election, we're joined now by Stephen Farnsworth, professor of political science at the University of Mary Washington in Virginia. Thanks for joining us, Stephen.
Glad to be here.
We're just over a week away. How are the polls looking?
Well, the polls show an incredibly close race, not only in the national contest, but also in every single swing state. Those 7 states or so that will decide the Electoral College, all of them are within a point or two. You can't get closer than this.
Have we ever seen a race this tight before, this close to the end?
Well, we've seen close races. Certainly, when you think about the 2000 election and you think about 2016 and 2020, these were all relatively close races. But what's different this time is that it is so close in so many different places. I mean, when you're looking at this current environment, there are 7 states that are being closely contested by the two campaigns, and all of them are so close. It's just an immense challenge to get into all these states at the last minute to try to eke out a win.
I want to turn our attention to rallies held over the weekend. Former President Donald Trump hosting a rally at Madison Square Garden in New York that is being described as his most inflammatory and racist rally ever. What do you make of the event so close to the vote?
Well, it really is an odd choice tactically. If you think about how this election is going to be won or lost, it's going to be won or lost on the basis of voters who have not already made up their minds about these two candidates, people who are on the fence. And the way that you're going to reach those voters, the ones who are not committed ideologically to either side, are the things that are more general. The Republicans, I think, would have an advantage if they talked more about immigration and reached out in terms of economic insecurity. This conversation really focusing on really racial conflict and disagreements on personalities and character, insults left and right. This is not a strategy to win over undecided voters. It's just an odd choice. It's also an odd choice to be in New York City. New York State is not a swing state. There's no nearby state that's a swing state. The time would have been better spent, in my view, had the Trump campaign spent the day in Pennsylvania or in Michigan.
The phrase Nazi rally is trending online today in reference to Trump's rally last night. Harris was also trending this weekend in part for her comments calling Trump a fascist when asked during an interview. Is she also making her language more extreme closer to Election Day?
Well, you don't really see it. I mean, you have with respect to Harris, the main argument that Harris is making that's combative right now is actually just drawing attention to the things that Donald Trump has actually said. The idea that he wants to be a dictator for a day, the idea that his campaigns are full of a lot of divisive, combative rhetoric, insults about Harris personally. You really do see, I think, a focus on the Harris campaign over what Donald Trump is saying. And I think that makes sense. If the Harris campaign is better off not talking about the issues where there is a significant disagreement with U.S. public opinion. People want to see a tougher border than the Democrats have delivered. People want to see more economic growth and less inflation than has been the case lately. And so if you can change the subject to Donald Trump and you're the Democratic candidate for president, that is an advantage. It is a smart strategy and an opening that Donald Trump has provided the Democrats.
What are you watching for each of the candidates to do this week, starting with Harris?
I think we can expect more of the same. I think that there will be a lot of focus on the part of the Harris campaign on this rally, this last New York City rally the other night. There's going to be a lot of argument that Donald Trump is just simply not suited to this job. Some of the same arguments that the Republicans made against Joe Biden, that he's too old, that he's lost a step or two, those are arguments that are being applied to Donald Trump now, and all indications are that Harris will continue to focus on those issues of Donald Trump's suitability. On the Republican side, it seems to me that even though a number of people in the Trump orbit, the campaign orbit, have talked about focusing on the issues where the Republicans are stronger, the economy and immigration, the focus seems to move in the direction of these personal attacks. And I think that'll be the big challenge for the Republicans. To what extent can Donald Trump close the deal, so to speak, by talking about things in ways that are more useful to undecided voters?
That's all the time we have today. Thanks for your insights, Stephen.
Thank you.